Good morning, and thank you for making the time to be with us today. We'll take a moment before we start. I see the participants are joining. So once again, thank you for those of you who just joined the call. We're waiting a few more seconds. So we're giving all the audience the time to actually log in, and we'll start shortly. I see the participants count is still climbing, so I'm gonna wait a few more seconds and then we start. All right. I see the participants is stabilized, the count is stabilizing, so let's go. So good morning once again, and welcome to this webinar today. This webinar is co-organized by Elsevier and IARMA, and we're really pleased to have all of you here today. My name is Lorenzo Ferri, and I'm the product director at Elsevier for research data management. This webinar follows the 3 series webinar we organized in March, which received a lot of interest and a lot of positive feedback, which showed essentially that there's a lot of interest in the community to learn more about research data management. And not just that, but also the best practices and how to put research data management in practice. So from theory to practice. Because of the interest that you showed, we decided to have a follow-up, which is the one today, which is actually meant to be even more practical and is meant to share insights into what institutions globally are doing to get started with RDM. Together with me today, we have Manik Sethi from Elsevier, who will present the findings from a research that we conducted together with an independent agency to find out the best practices around the world on research data management, but also the challenges. And these findings that Manik will share today will also be published in a white paper that will be made available to all of you after the presentation, after the recording today. After that, Petra Dickhaus will share her best practices and experience of tracking research data and monitoring research data management at the University of Eindhoven. And then lastly, Dimas will, from Elsevier, will share some examples on how you can get started today with tracking and monitoring research data at your institution with some of the tools that we have at Elsevier. In the end, we'll have some time for the Q&A, but as usual, please make sure to share your questions throughout the webinar, and we'll make sure to answer them live throughout the webinar or take them up in the end. One just reminder, there will be 2 polls that will be shared throughout this demo or throughout this webinar today. So you will see the pop-up coming up, and we want to hear your feedback. So please share your feedback. With that, I will hand it over to Manik. Manik, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, depending on where you're joining from. My name is Manik Sethi, and I'll be presenting some findings from a research project we have done recently, along with research consulting. It's an independent UK-based agency, which is very much involved in all different kind of projects when it comes to research and research data management. So just a bit background of this qualitative project. We started working on this in September 2022. It's been a couple of months now. As part of this project, we have interviewed 20 subject matter experts from 7 different countries and universities and bodies. Overall, 170 hours of test research has been put into this work, which will be released later this month, in the month of June. We are waiting for some final approvals from the institutions and the bodies we have interviewed, and just some last touch of work is going on. But for this webinar, I will be sharing some findings as part of this research project, and later on making some brief recommendation. But of course, what I'll be talking is just an extract of this detailed research work we have done. So you'll read about it much more once you have a copy of the white paper. With that, I'll start. Over the past few years, there has been increasing interest in tracking research data, whether within an institution or after it has been shared in the public domain. This reflects a growing awareness of data that, regardless of one's discipline, is a key research output, complementing the narratives in published articles and enabling others to verify and build on the author's work. However, we are far from the finish line. The journey from data loss towards a full appreciation of research data as a first-class research output is a long and complex one. All stakeholders, that is funders, publishers, and institutions, have a role to play in nurturing data sharing and transparency. I'll quote two funders here. The first is NIH, which has an NIH data management policy and sharing policy, which notes that data sharing will facilitate the development of treatments and products that improve human health. If I quote Horizon Europe program, and assuming a lot of you are from Europe, it includes clusters, partnerships, and missions around better interoperability and sharing of data that findable, accessible, interoperable, and reusable. We call it FAIR. Publishers like ours and others can support this developing landscapes through journal policies, guidelines, and tailored workflows. A lot of journals of Elsevier, to name Lancet, Cellpress, have a clear data sharing policy when you submit an article. And very important, from institutional perspective, it is complex to reconcile these external policy requirements, whether from responsibilities lie within the individual or with the support and training that libraries and other professional services can provide. Individual researcher attitudes to an open research data sharing vary between strong support, a cohort of people who are open research practitioners and want to share, to researchers who consider data is asset that is not suitable for broad dissemination. So it really varies from based on, sorry. It really varies from individual researcher to researcher, and some are very open to sharing data, and some are not keen, suitable because they think that broader dissemination to others who are keen to share our principle are concerned about the appropriately protecting the usage of sensitive data. More fundamental differences also affect data sharing. A common challenge is the fact that arts and humanities researchers may think that artifacts of their research is not a data, potentially leading to limited sharing and opportunities for tracking. Notably, disciplinary differences also affect repository choice, including institutional, journalist, and disciplinary repositories based within one's country or manage international resources. What we also found that institutions really need to balance between people, technical infrastructure to track research data. In a research culture conventionally focused on publications as a definitive output of research, many researchers will be less likely to deposit data openly in an online repository and prefer to use personal or institutional storage locations. Furthermore, time-pressed researchers may want to focus on the next bid, next grant, next project, rather than revisiting data management plans of requirements of their previous projects. The fact that data sharing lies at the intersection of good research practice, research integrity, disciplinary norms, and external requirements, and individual belief in open science often makes institutional intervention difficult. For example, a researcher's decision about if and where they deposit their research data are frequently invisible to their organizations or institutions, unless they deposit their research data in a local institutional repository. Also, given the high variation in behaviors within a single organization, institutions may struggle, but should prioritize resources such as training, support, but also IT spend across their research portfolio, as well as their department and faculties. So what's the rationale for action? Effective data management and sharing are a cornerstone of excellence in research culture. These practices, as part of broader research integrity agenda, help institutions enhance trust in their published findings, as well as more incisively showcase impact and public benefit from research. While the research data sharing landscape is still somewhat in infancy, related to traditional publication outputs such as research articles, concerted efforts are being made to improve the extent to which research data can be monitored and tracked. The increased use of persistent identifiers and data citation practices, consideration of data in peer reviews, and the requirement of data availability statements by research funders and journals are just a few examples of cross-stakeholders initiatives that support the growing prominence of research data. In the end, this is my last slide, and in the end, what we have recommended after thorough study, a 10-step plan, which I'm going to talk through very quickly because you'll find much more details in the white paper once you have a copy of it, is that there's a 10-step plan we recommend for institutions to have. To begin with, review your current support for open science practices. Develop a mission statement around managing and tracking research data. Establish roles and responsibilities, including a lead on data management and tracking. Review budget and resourcing available to achieve strategic ambition. Review the data tracking solution available, including in-house delivery and outsourcing. Consider the extent of integration needed with external institutional software. Existing institutional software. Shortlist and trial a small set of options and their availability to meet your objective. Choose and implement your data tracking solution. Train and educate yourself, very important, including academics as well as professional services. And last, but certainly not the least, audit the chosen data tracking approach and verify its performance and its reliability. With that, I will stop here. And like I said, we'll share a detailed copy of this white paper later to you when we release it in an email. But this was just a snippet, an extract of the research we have done. And I really hope that in this paper, you'll find a lot of interesting insights for you to have a conversation within your institution. How do you like to plan your data management, tracking ambition and plan? With that, I'll stop here and over to you, Lorenzo. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Manik. Thank you for sharing some insights from the research that you worked on. Obviously, there's a wealth of information that will be made available through the white paper. I must say one very interesting insight that you shared that's kind of stuck in my mind was the one about the importance of domain repositories in research data management. The fact that researchers tend to publish their data in domain-specific repositories or generalist repositories like Zenodo and others, and therefore how important it is for an institution to actually be able to understand where the research data is across the world or across different repositories. Thanks a lot for sharing these insights, and keen to see the white paper as soon as it's published, and we will distribute it to all the audience, so you will all have access to that. So let's move on. I'm being told that Petra is having issues actually accessing the call, so we are going to swap speakers, and I'm going to invite Dimas to come on stage and share some examples on how institutions can start today to track their research data wherever it is in the domain and generalist repositories around the world. So Dimas, over to you.
Thank you, Lorenzo. Hello, everybody. My name is Dimas Putra. I'm a senior product manager at Elsevier here, focused on data monitor. And yeah, I've been working on the research data since the past year. And for today's agenda, what I'm going to do is to help all of us understand more about data monitor, and most importantly, to give some interesting examples on how data monitor help institutions track research data. Gonna go in full screen first. Data monitor helps tracking institutions' research data. As presented by Manik before, we are seeing that a lot of trends that prove that actually research data records are heavily deposited in domain-specific and generalist repositories. And we saw the trend that up to, or even more, in some cases, that 90% of the research data records are deposited by researchers, not in the institutional data repositories, but deposited in the domain and generalist specific repositories, such as GenBank and other things. And in here, what we do basically, in my view, is hopefully as simple that we harvest data from those thousands of repositories, including DataCite, which is one of the big aggregator of research data records. And after harvesting those repositories, we are seeing that many missing data in the metadata fields, because I know that for you and for what I have also heard from many librarians from multiple institutions, that the metadata quality, the metadata schema from all of those repositories are challenging to work for. And we then normalize the metadata, we clean up the metadata, remove duplicates, we ensure that the schema is workable for all of us, and then we enrich, meaning that we're adding necessary information such as publication information, author information, institution information, and also very recently, it's very important that we are tracking the funding information as well. And as you can see here in the chart, that in Data Monitor, we provide all of that information in Data Monitor corpus. We index that information. We index those records that are clean, that are enriched, and the data is available to the institutions through the web application, which I'm going to show you a little bit, and also through an API. And Data Monitor is truly an API product. Therefore, we have a vision to be able to make Data Monitor easily integratable with any systems there. On the next slides, what I'm going to do here actually is to not really going with the demo, but I'm going to put myself in your shoes, in the shoes of librarians and the research admins, as those are the people that we in Data Monitor have been interacting daily, and those are the main people that we are going to help for tracking research data in order to advance their RDM journey. So I'm not going to go full screen here. So as a librarian, when I'm becoming a librarian here, that in this situation that the institution has decided to start making steps in RDM, and the library is tasked to take the lead. So as a librarian responsible for RDM, that I have to propose an approach. The approach that I need to do with Data Monitor is as the following. I recently became aware that most research data is deposited in domain and public repositories. Then I know that my researchers are already doing data sharing, but my institution right now has no visibility, has a very low visibility. Therefore, my first step with Data Monitor is to get visibility on data sets linked to the publications, because it's very important for me to be able to gather all of that information and make sure that my institution gets the right visibility. Now I am going to the Data Monitor web applications. In here, what I will do is to find research data records that are affiliated with my institutions. Let's say I'm from the York University. In here, I can simply get the research data records affiliated to my institutions. As I can see here, I see that 6,071 records. The next step that I want to do is, of course, to not get all of these records. I wanted to find the ones that I care the most, which first is to understand, to find the records linked with an article. So there are several filters that I can use. Of course, I'm going to filter the one linked with an article, publication year, as it's very important to break it down later on. And let me see if I limit with those filters, like, I can see, oops, click refresh. Here I can see that these are the records. Let me do that again. Give it an article, and I'm going to filter with the publication year. These are the records that I really care about. What I can do is to also see what are the information in each of this record. I am able to see the description. I can also see the author names, and here I can also see the author profile, etc. But what I care more is to basically to get these records for me to do an analysis. So what I will do is to export this record as an CSV, because in my mind right now, I need to get the data out there and try to do analysis. After exporting as an CSV, I can see there are many information available over here. For example, we have the record DOIs, the publication year, so that I can break it down further. And most importantly, the main reason that I use Data Monitor is to be able to get more information about the institutions, about the authors, and also about the funders, because my institution needs to get full visibility on all of this. One of the things that I usually do is to get the overview of the research data records count by the publication year. In here, I can see it seems that the growth is quite stagnant of the number of records linked with the publication here affiliated with my university. It's always hovering between 200 to 500. Then I would need to report this to the stakeholders in the university. Or I could even show this to the researchers so they are aware of that. There are many insights that I would like to get out of this. Therefore, our Data Monitor here is a place for me to start getting those insights, and eventually my institution, my university would get those insights as well. Let me go to another example. And in this example that we are working very closely with many CRIS administrators daily. And what I'm going to show you after this is to show how we are working together with the CRIS administrators using a CRIS system called Peer from Elsevier. And in this situation, again, as a CRIS admin, when my institution has a CRIS system, I really want to ensure that I can import research data sets to start reporting on those research data sets, and also to showcase, basically to showcase to the world that my institutions has this rich data records, and we are ensuring we are all in the open data journey. Therefore, it's super important that we are showcasing it to the world. Therefore, as a CRIS admin, I want to import research data records. So my approach here is to work my institution who has decided to prioritize data sets linked to the publications. How should I start? And I start again with the Data Monitor applications. And here, what I'm going to find is, of course, the research data records affiliated with my institutions. And I have put it here in my screen that these are the, let's say, 2,153 research data records affiliated to my institutions. And here, I am from Bikoka University, therefore I see these records. And again, what I'm going to do is the same like previous one. I'm going to filter it out to be able to get the research data records that I care the most. The next thing what I will do is to go to the system that I work every day, which is Pure. And this is the system that I work every day. And then I go here to the Administrator tab, and here I'm only going to show you just a few things. First, this is the custom query, and this is the place. This is the field that I am getting from the data monitor app. This is the same query. If I click copy, and then I go here, and then I paste it here, so I get the same query. And then when I click, save here, I can easily get the 733 research data sets that are in data monitor that are shown in the web application before. And I could also go, for example, to here, to another tab. To see each of the record that I have imported from data monitor. As you can see here, I am now looking at all of the metadata part of the research data record, and I can see that this is the research that I know. And then here we the Pure system and data monitor have identified that this is the record authored by this researcher, and we are able to match this researcher from data monitor and from Pure. Therefore, for those of you who use Pure, you may know that this record is very good for my next step, just to validate it, and then basically it's done. I have imported all of these records for the showcasing and reporting use case. And this is an example of the showcase page that the Pure has. And in this page, in this page, we can see that Strathclyde University, which is an institution that the monitor is working together with as well, that Strathclyde is showcasing 1,943 data sets, and most of them are from data monitor. And here they can showcase all of these records from data monitor in their Pure portal. Let me get back to the slides. As I mentioned before, data monitor has the vision to integrate with any of the systems with a multiple integration point, and we are a native API product. Therefore, if I show another example as well from the institution that we work together with in the US, which is CDC, Center for Disease Control and Prevention. Some of you may have heard about them before. What CDC is doing here is basically very similar to what I have shown you in Pure, but they are not doing it in Pure. They're doing it in their own system. They're getting all of these records, 163 research data sets from data monitor, and they're adding it here. And as you can see, they're using it for their showcase page as well. And they make sure this is publicly available for the public to see. That's the demo that I have for today. If you have any questions, let us know. With that, I'm giving it back to Lorenzo, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Dimas. Thank you for sharing these examples, which I think show in practice what an institution can do today, can start doing today with a tool like Data Monitor and a CRIS system. I'm being told that Petra managed to join the call. So that's great. So I want to say, Petra, over to you.
Okay, sorry for that. This is Alexandra speaking. Petra, I think You're live, are you?
I'm in.
Okay.
I'm via Teams, so I'm not sure if the participants of the webinar can hear me.
Very well, Petra, loud and clear. Glad to hear your voice. So
That's great. Thank you.
the floor is yours.
Thanks. Yes, I was asked to present something about the data monitor integration at TUE. My name is Petra Dikhout. I'm a research information specialist at Eindhoven University of Technology, and I manage the Pure system. And what we did was, could you change this slide, please, Alexandra? Yes. We started to work with Data Monitor as a source system for our data sets. And what I'm going to tell you in this presentation is something about the introduction of the university. I will tell you about the open science, which in the Netherlands is a big thing coming up. We have data management teams at our university. I will introduce you, and the integration we did. So, thank you. A small introduction about our university. We have a Pure as a CRIS system as of 2016. And we decided to decentralize the data entry and the downloading by research and secretary staff. But actually we have a central validation team. So we have a team of 3 persons that are working on the validation of the data, which is of course for publication in the main area, but it's more and more looking forward to other entries and entities in Pure. We have a wide range of content that we use in Pure and which we also present on the portal. So we have the publications, which is the main entry, and more activities are coming up actually, but those are manually entered. The prices are also manually entered, but are obligated by the management staff. So data sets are not that main at the moment, but they're coming up. And we had a project in 2018, which introduced this as the CMS for our website as well. So our Pure system is in the center of the research information chain, and it's making sure that the data is entered once, so the administrative burden is lowered. So we have the portal and the main pages on the research internet are the same. So why did we join the pilot for the data monitor? It's actually the open science community and the open science transition that was driving this. As of 2017, the Dutch National Open Science Program was launched. And since then, progress was made in many aspects of the transition to open science. At first, the emphasis was on the research outputs, as you already know by open access. But it's more and more, indeed, the emphasis is now on open data. So when the data monitor pilot was initiated, it was for us a logic step to participate in this pilot. In Pure and in the portal, we made almost all entities available, which you can also see in our portal. But of course, as you can expect, researchers are not very fond of the administration. And all the entities that have to be entered manual and do not have the obligation by our board were lagging and, well, are not filled in that often. So until we started the pilot, we had I think it was 30 data sets shining on our portal, which is not that much. And the FAIR principle was found nowhere, actually. So data wasn't found anywhere, definitely not on our TUE domain. So data sets that were created by our researchers and were archived were not shown on our domain, and we couldn't report on them or showcase them. Since Data Monitor aggregates so many databases, could you get back one slide, Alexander? Thanks. Since Data Monitor aggregates so many databases, it makes it a great source to feel Pure and profile that on the Pure portal, of course. As we have a group of people at the TUE that work closely with our researchers on research data management within the faculties, we started to team up. And that's actually the next slide. Thank you. So these people are called the data stewards. And in this slide, I show what the role and responsibilities in the highlights are of these persons. So they have an advisory role on the data management. They work and make sure that processes on the data management plans are communicated and ensure the compliancy with requirements, laws, and regulations. As they are the expert in what the formats of the database, the formats of the data sets and the databases are, we made use of their expertise to make decisions on the configuration of the data monitor and the content types of the database. So could you check the next slide, please? Yeah. So what we decided already before the data monitor pilot started was that Pure would never be the archiving medium. We only register the metadata of the data sets. We have therefore disabled the file saving options in Pure on the data sets. So the metadata is saved in Pure with a link, which could be based on a DOI, to the actual source. This information on the metadata is now already used for reporting purposes. And to make sure the datasets are shown on the portal, more datasets are findable at this moment. We especially see great value in the link between research outputs and datasets. But for now, we only have the integration with the data monitor, and therefore only the existing relation with research outputs is made and shown on the portal. Could you press enter, Alexandra? Thanks. So instead of the 30 manual enter datasets, we now have 430 datasets in Pure and shown on the portal. And the choices we make for the configuration in Pure are indeed the integration. So we did not choose for the synchronization, as the metadata couldn't be edited. And we noticed that especially the affiliations were not correct, and we definitely see a need in making corrections on those on that data. And we now have the publication dates as of 2019 made available, and we choose for the content types as mentioned on the sheets. And we match the internal person and or the internal organization. So how does that look in practice? Next slide, please. So for instance, when you bump into a publication that has a data set related. It's mentioned in the menu structure on the right-hand side. And by pressing that, you go to the metadata record of the data set. So next slide. Which looks like this. And of course, there is more information possible to in the description, for instance. This doesn't really have a lot of information there, but as you can see, you have a DOI in there, DOI, which has relation to the source. So if you click that, next slide, please, you actually enter the database or the environment where you can find the actual data set. So you see that if there is a link between the research output and the data set, it's easy to go from one end to another, which for us is very valuable for profiling and the findability and reusability, of course. So in the database where we are looking at this moment here, all the restrictions and the security settings and security that is needed is all managed over there. So we do not carry that responsibility for that. Next slide, please. So before you start using the data monitor, I would suggest that you have your processes and staff for the validation in place, because what we saw is that there is indeed a different, there are different metadata fields, of course, for data sets, but also the process is different as the researchers are not actively choose for the data set to put in, to be placed in Pure. So there is a script that is running, and it's making sure that this data is in, but it needs to be validated. The configuration settings have to be in place and have to be, I think, definitely decided on with a data steward, or actually, or if you don't have that role within your organization, with the research RDM team. For communication purposes, I think that also should be considered. And for us, indeed, that was done by the data stewards. But I noticed that sort of the Google way, as Google Scholar is working, is pretty much adapted within the research area. People do not want to be bothered with all this administrative burden, and they just want to see, well, semi-automatically, of course, because we always need to do something as Pure management to make sure that the correct data is in place and profiled within the profile information of the researcher. So our experience is that when information is wrongly added to the profile, they are very fast and can find us easily. And a wish list addressed to Elsevier. I see that the alignment of import processes in Pure for the different entities is needed. There's now for every entity, well, a different way of working, which makes it difficult for our validation team to, well, align their processes. And well, I would love to have a relation between the research output by a script, so automatically done also after the data set is entered in Pure. For now, it's only possible when you have the synchronization on, but as mentioned, it's not possible for us at the moment, as the metadata needs to be corrected in Pure. So therefore, it's needed to have the relation created yourself, and of course that's an extra step to take, and it needs to be done by the researchers, but of course it's not. So hopefully that can be something that you can develop in the short future. That was it. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Petra, for sharing your experience and also for being with us. I know it was really challenging with the tech issues that you experienced. So thank you for making it nonetheless and sharing your experience. All right, we still have a few minutes. So I would like to invite the panelists on stage again and have a short Q&A session. So Manik, Dimas, thank you. Petra, I think you're still there. So
Yes, I am. You're welcome.
great. Is there any questions? I know that there were already some questions in the chats that we replied. Any more questions? Okay, it seems that there are no more questions at the moment. I know there were a few questions in the chats. We answered those. Maybe I will quickly mention the questions that were asked, and I will reply them live briefly for all. So there was one question about data monitor, whether it is part of Pure or it's a different tool, different product entirely. And the answer is that it's a different product entirely. It does integrate natively with Pure, but it is a different product. There was another question about the type of data sets that are indexed in Data Monitor. The answer there is that there's multiple data types that are being indexed in Data Monitor. And as a user, you can filter for a given data type. The list of data types is in line with the data site schema. So if you're wondering which data types are included, have a look at the data site schema, and that's in alignment with that. If you want to know more details about the data monitor specific schema, there is also information available on the web, or you can follow up directly with me or one of my colleagues. There was a question about whether data monitor is open or requires a subscription. And the answer is that data monitor is a subscription product. So you would require a subscription to access the tool. And I think this covers all the questions, at least that I could see so far.
There is another question just now.
Oh yes, I see that. What is the authenticity of the data monitor on the data on data monitor? Vinny, thanks for the question. I don't understand what you mean with authenticity.
Let's give a few seconds, or maybe I'm going to further.
Yeah. Okay, and while we wait a few more seconds to clarify these points and also see if there are other questions, let me mention already that two things actually. The first one, there's a white paper that Manik presented, or at least he presented the key findings in the beginning of this webinar. And the white paper will be made openly available to all of you, and it will be openly available on the web. I believe in a couple of weeks, 2 weeks. So you will receive the link to the white paper as part of the thank you email for joining this webinar. Second thing I wanted to mention is if you want to have a more in-depth demo on Data Monitor, if you think your institution is interested and you want to have a one-on-one demo, we have made some 30-minute slots available. You can select one of the slots that is convenient for you, and we can have a follow-up one-on-one a demo and a conversation if you have more questions about using Data Monitor. How to select the slots. My colleague Alexandra pasted a link in the chats, I believe. It's a bit.ly link. You click on that link and you will be able to select the slots that is available to you. The same bit.ly link will also be sent in the thank you email. So if you don't get it now, you can also find it in the thank you email. But as you can see, it's also on the screen here. So at the bottom of the email of the slide here, you can copy that URL and select a slot for a demo. Yes, okay, so thank you, Vinit, for clarifying your question. So you're asking about the correct links to the published articles. So I believe what you're asking is how do we track links between data and articles? The answer is that in two ways, essentially. On one hand, we leverage the source metadata. So data repositories and the metadata in the data repositories includes the link between the data and the article. So in that case, we simply use a source metadata. In addition to that, we are working on a project to extract links from data to articles from the references of the articles. The project is ongoing, but it's something that we hope to see in production later this year. And I hope this answers your question. If you have a follow-up question, please let me know now. We're going to close the call in 30 seconds or so, but perhaps you can quickly type that or else follow up separately. All right, thank you, Vinit. All right, so with that, I believe there are no more questions. I want to thank you all for making the time to be here today. I hope this was informative. Thank you also for sharing your feedback. And well, I wish you a great rest of the day. Bye.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.